Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen with you now and go through some of the articles that I found quite interesting. And I will start with big data because we were talking about it yesterday, and I think it's quite important how Disney is using big data. I think Matthew gave a very good brief of what he's read as well. So in this case, they're talking about these kind of bracelets that we've got, that the visitors get. And what happens is these braids, as soon as you purchase the ticket, these are sent to you as well, right? And there are few ways, quite a number of ways that the Disney company use the information. So one of the things is this is linked to your credit card. So actually you do not have to use any money as such, because this will take the money from your credit card. And also it will show you, show the company, that's Disney, what these people are purchasing, where they're purchasing, are they repeating their purchases, are they, what are the rides they're going into, where are they located, and whole load of information about you when you enter the park, right? And how many people go into Disney, the US? How many do you think? How many people visit the US Disney park? Right. So one says 270 million. How many did you say, Matthew? Yeah. So you can imagine the amount of data the amount of data that's collected in that particular location. It's just from one location, right? So there is a massive amount of, it's kind of got so much information, data there, but then how do you convert it to information? So one of the questions I had yesterday in the evening class was, how does this big data work? As in, really, have we got few applications that we use, right? These companies use, and who actually gets involved in creating this big data? So I want to ask anyone who's there or who's attending, have you got any experience with big data working in your company, the current or past companies? Anyone? Right, Eugene says no. Anybody else? Matthew, have you worked with it? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So let's stay with your example because you're in the company, so we can discuss that a little bit more. And approximately how many people have you got that you got information? Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So what you mentioned is you store data, right? And sorry. Yeah, most part is stored. So, do you see potential of using it other than monetizing and giving it to others to access this kind of information? Is there another way that you can use this data for new products or anything, a growth market, analyze something else for your company? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So, are you working in a medical an hospital? Several hospitals, right? So in this case, what's happened is you've connected with so many hospitals, and you're a provider of this data, is it? You collect it instead of, sorry. Right. Right. And these hospitals are not linked to each other, they're separate entities and utilizing your service. Linked as in separate legal entities. Right. Right. Okay. So, in if you take a comparison with what we've got, uh, again, we've got lots of people and their information. However, we are not linking it with other competitors, right? But certainly we can link it with all our other theme parks, right? So that's something that we can do, something similar. But were you involved at any point in this project? Do you know? Right. Now, in this case, they say the cost of this somewhere down here, I believe. They say, no, in the next article, it says this cost was 800 million. Right. So the big data exercise is not a cheap exercise. And in the next one, it stated how they went about this whole activity, right? At a high level, they say this is the way that we went about it. But most importantly, in this case, you can find out information about people and provide a personalized service, right? This is what big data is able to provide. Airlines, banks, any like hospitals, healthcare providers, right, insurance providers, all of these, they can use big data and provide the customer a much better service. And each individual will differ, their preferences, and you can change this generic product to suit that individual, right? So for example, the airline industry is just about to transform itself significantly, and that again is using big data. So currently, most airlines, it is through the travel agent, especially in the Middle East, right? They deal with the travel agent, and therefore the airline does not have information, a lot of information about the passenger. Okay, but now a new standard is coming on, and that's by IATA. Because of this new standard, the airlines will be in a position to access data of passengers, right? The way, for example, let's say you're traveling on because of work, you're traveling constantly, and you are traveling either business class or economy, right? But now you do that, and you collect the miles, and you know that so then what the airline will know is you are a very frequent flyer, and you will be, so the next time you try to purchase or even before you purchase your ticket on holiday for personal things, the airline can send you a promotion saying, well, you qualify for a business class or first class ticket whenever, and you can avail it for your personal travel. So that is something very special and very specific to that person. So many other things the airline is able to provide you as an individual, and without providing that, without saying, well, this is the generic thing that we've got for you and with the rest of the passengers, and you got to accept it, right? Similarly with Disney, so they're able to understand their customers better, and then they're able to actually provide a better service, and also see, how can I customize it to that particular individual or for that family. And the other thing you'll have to remember is that the children may first go into Disney World or to a theme park at a small age, 7, 8, 9 years, but then again you can market your product when they are young adults in their teens, and then again when they're in the older, right, youngsters in their 20s. So then you have the ability to track your customer as well, and then it's a journey, and you're able to track that, and again provide more products, services that might be applicable to this particular customer. Any views on this, or any experiences you've got? Uh-huh. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Along with big data, and you're getting access to individuals, there a lot of their personal information. Another aspect to consider is, of course, the security, right, and disaster recovery. So these two things become very, very important, and it's part of your E3 enterprise subject as well, where they talk quite a bit on the disaster recovery. That's again how to prevent the risk, and then going into the security as well. Now security is extremely important in this case, because this is very personal information, right? So Matthew, in your case, your data must be really, they must be very highly secure, isn't it? Right, so you don't go into the IT space at all. Right, so one of the things I know you play different roles in your life currently, but as a management accountant or senior management accountant, you're supposed to be the driver or the architect of information for the future, right? So since you're the architect of data, you should be able to kind of give guidance and be always involved in these IT projects. And because again, looking at you don't need to be an IT person. You don't need to know secure coding at all, because there are lots of other areas, the business areas, that you can be involved and you should be involved, and asking the questions like disaster recovery or security, or looking at what sort of information do you need and what value this information will provide you. Because at times, and most of the time, to generate information, it costs a lot of money, right? Like in Disney's case, it costed 800 million, this project, and there is ongoing cost involved as well. So it's not something small. However, as the finance person here, you need to be able to put in that ROI and look at it in a very clinical sense and say, what return on investment does this information provide? Okay, so this is in your Dropbox, and I'll go to the next slide, next article. It talks about how they went about this. Right. So they talk about this Magic Band and the Magic Band Plus. So in here again, you can see how Disney is kind of encouraging the user to join this group, where if you order the Magic Bands, and then you have these functionalities to pre-book rides, and also jump queues, and lots of things like personalized address with the name by the character, and so many things that you can do by being part of this group that gets this Magic Band Plus. So again, they're enticing the users to come on and use it, because that will enable them to actually get really good data and then generate revenue, right? So here you go. It says massive amounts of valuable data, such as real-time location, purchase history. So this is what Matthew mentioned yesterday, I believe, when he said, they know who is hanging around where, which location. So by doing that, they're able to mobilize the food trucks, the mobile food trucks to that area, and then increase the revenue from food, right? That's a very good way of generating revenue. So another thing, it says Walt Disney does respect the privacy of their visitors. They allow visitors to completely control how much and what sort of data is collected, right? So here the visitors are able to control, so you can opt in, opt out of certain things. Okay. As we go, if there are any questions, if you can and just speak out and let me know, because I can't see your chat right now. So it says, in order to achieve magical experience, they had to go through a lot of effort. So you can see 60,000 employees needed to be trained to use the system, right? As well as having this free Wi-Fi across 40 square mile park. Now, this is not only the cost of it, but also you're looking at training people. What happens in a case like this? Now, if our company, Dream Park, is to introduce something like this, they see obviously others have introduced this, and we also want to invest in this, right? Apart from the straightforward investment that you see, which may range from 500 to 800 million, right? What are the considerations that you need to take into account? And I'm looking at certain models as well. Eugene? Eugene, are you there? Can you hear us? Or someone else who's there? What else? So imagine what's happening is it's a very big investment. So you can discuss, that financing aspect of it is just one part in this whole thing. There are quite a number of other things that you need to consider. Who has been involved in any IT project? Is there anybody who's got involved in any IT project? Right, okay. Talk about the treasury system. Are you using a quantum or something else? Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. How many, Matthew, how many people are there in the treasury department? Right, so you're talking about 35 people who are impacted, right? Plus your treasury system is linked to any of the ERP systems as well as some of the other financial systems, right? Yeah, so I know quantum quite well, so I can talk about it, because and it'll be the same thing for any other application or something you're trying to build. So one thing is there are 35 people here who will get impacted straight away, right? That's one. So now I'm trying to figure out who are my key stakeholders, right? I'm doing a stakeholder analysis to understand who are my key stakeholders. So in that sense, one thing is these 35 people. Another area will be, where people are the systems that you interface to, right? Like your ERP system and any other system that takes feeds from quantum. Okay, so you need to inform them, guys, I'm doing this. Even when you're doing any kind of changes to this quantum, after you implement quantum, subsequently you will be doing many changes, right? Like we call it a change request or some initiatives, OPEX initiatives, right? And then you need to basically involve all the other areas, as in the people who will get impacted. Now, the general ledger or the ERP, either Oracle, SAP, I'm just talking the big guys, Oracle or SAP, and say, right now this is the kind of change I've made. This may, maybe my interface may need to change. Now, if you don't do that, right, the key things, first thing is you will have resistance from your 35 people if you have not communicated well, right? Further, if, like Matthew mentioned, you need to understand and design your requirements clearly, right? There again, you can have problems, right? And in saying that, you need to make sure, well, if your budget is, let's say, 500,000, but there is scope creep. The people say, well, I want this X, Y, and the other, and there's a lot of extra things that they're requiring. Immediately this 500,000 may become 800, 900, right? So you have to ensure it doesn't blow out of proportion, because from a vendor's perspective, he needs to quantum the sun. I think you're dealing with SunGuard, am I right? Yeah. So even with them, you'll have to keep it very clean, very tight, the scope, because otherwise these things are going to go blow out of proportion. Now, a project like this, imagine you got 60,000 employees that you need to work with and train, right? So 35,000 is nothing in comparison to this. You'll have to have a massive training schedule, right? How would you train these people? Or in our dream park, we've got so many people, and we are bringing in these systems, right? A new system is coming on. How would we manage to train these people? What are the ways that we can do? So, anyone who's had experience here? Yes, Eugene. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, so very good, Eugene. This is part of your change management, right? So in change management, there is a model called Levin's model. It's given as well in your slides. I'll check again just to confirm it's there. So what we're saying is, in this case, something new has come in, so we need to basically communicate, unfreeze your current mode of thinking. You have to unfreeze, then I'm going to train you, and then bring on the new methodology, and then with the new methodology I'm able to refreeze, right? So unfreeze, train, and refreeze are the three stages that you need to follow, right? That's a model that I've just mentioned, and you can use it in your answers as well. And something like this, where you're bringing on a change, the face-to-face will hardly work, right? It's not possible, like Eugene mentioned. It's not humanly possible. So you go on, train the trainer as well, then that trainer will train the others. But even so, you'll have to have a lot of online material available, like what we are doing now. I mean, it doesn't matter to me where in the world you are, as long as you link up to WebEx and we have a class. So similarly, even the WebEx sessions, it might be difficult, because of if you're bringing in, just in one theme park, it's a different story. Then the timeline, the timing is okay, right? But if you're linking east, west, different geographic locations, the timing is going to be very difficult. So you might have to have recorded sessions as well, right? So these are things that you will need to think about when you're coming in and implementing a big system, or even a small system as this. Any other questions? Very true. And this is something I can give you a very good example of this, because when I was in Australia with Origin Energy, an oil and gas company, we were rolling out a particular module, and accounts payable module. And with Australia, we didn't have any problem. And then we were rolling it out to Vietnam. And the Vietnam, we were having enormous problems, and we didn't know what. So the lady, the head of accounts payable, she had a chat with me, and when I asked her an update, what's going on, because I was looking after their IT, and I was the IT business partner. So she said, Andrew, this is really, really, this training is really bad. I said, what's that then? Why? They said, no one's taken up. They're saying they don't understand. So okay, I said, fine, let us do another training. So like that, we did about 4 trainings, right? And we couldn't, for the love of God, we just could not figure out what was going on, and still they were resisting. So then fortunately, I had a lady in my team who's of Vietnamese background. So I said, okay, Tracy, please, and it was on WebEx. I said, get on the call, get on the WebEx, start with speaking to them in their language, right? So that they understand there's somebody from their country, somebody who can speak their language is there and can kind of reach out. So she did that, and she said, you know what? They're scared. Not that they don't know, they're scared. I said, what are they scared of, right? And she says, well, because they're scared, they'll break the system, right? And then it just struck me, because if you the Australian mentality and the way they go about things is very, very different to that of the ones in Vietnam, right? Vietnam is very hierarchical and very military kind of thing, and you need to be told. They will not challenge you. They're scared something will happen if they do something wrong. And you see, that fear was keeping them from using the system, right? So your point is very valid, Eugene. People from different parts of the world react to things in different ways, because the first thing with change management is they're scared. They're scared of what? What do you think they're scared of when you bring in something new? Correct. Even us, right? All of us, that's the first thing. I don't care whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that you bring in. First thing is, what's going to happen to me? What's in it for me, right? So these are the 2 things that we constantly, whatever level you're in, doesn't matter whether you're a director, whether you're a manager, whether you're an executive, every one of us, human beings, that's what we think, because generally we don't like change. And always we're looking at, how is this going to threaten us? And the first thing is, how am I going to survive? So as long as you're able to make the other party comfortable first and say, well, this is what it is, nothing's going to happen, these are the new things that we are going through. I mean, imagine when this 800 million project, this is a huge project, and so many people are impacted, right? Immediately they would have had a huge change management project going on. Now, change management is not up in the agenda in the Middle East for whatever reason, right? There are many reasons to it. I will not go through that, but it's not there. But in the West, it is very much there and top in the agenda. And in CIMA, they emphasize change management a lot, because that is part of your leadership and people skills as well, right? Then the next one, they talk about today all collected data allow business to gain additional insight, right? The segmentation, the traffic flow, and how did they do that? This is the interesting part. They did start small. however, and build the big data platform like a startup builds a company with small and flexible teams, failing fast and early but improving along the way. This is a very, very important point. And why do I say it's important? I like somebody else to talk to me other than Eugene and Matthew. Anyone else? Or I'll have to call upon you. Yes. Right, brilliant. Right. Right. Rizwan, anything from you? Roland, anything from you? So let me unmute you. Okay, Rizwan says nothing at the moment. What about you, Roland? Okay. Niraj. Niraj, anything from you that you can think of? Why have these small teams? Why did they do something like this? Right. So the reason is, even in our case, we can apply this because having small teams, they stated here, you can fail and the failure is not catastrophic. Right? You start, let's say I start a project, right, which will impact so many people, but I start with, let's say I'm implementing a general ledger, right, and ERP system I'm implementing. So instead of completing the whole thing and then launching it to about 100,000 people, right, what I can do is start it very small, build one module, right, activate one module and see how it works and expose it to only 2 or 3 people. Then I add another module and then see how the interfaces work and expose it to another 2 people, right, and see how this whole thing works. In this way, you are not disrupting the operational work as well, because you don't get a huge, the operational people also need to be involved in this type of project, so that's not disrupted. You're doing it in stages. In this way, I'm mitigating the risk, reducing the risks, right? The failures I can very quickly manage and go into and make them successes, and you learn from what your mistakes are, and the mistakes are not pronounced because it's small, right? They started with open source tools to keep the cost down, but as the amount of data grew, the open source tools used failed, and Disney opted for paid tools, and they are more reliable with the amount of data Disney processes. What does this? There is layers to this paragraph. What does it state? What is open source? What is open source tools? Anyone? It's free. Yes, it's free. It's freely available, right? So there are certain applications, tools that are freely available. So what they did was they used these tools for free, and they build their data, the structures, okay? And this is the thing that takes a lot of time, because you can start with some data structures and see whether it really works. Now, I rather use these free tools rather than running off and buying something for millions and millions of dollars and not knowing how it's going to work. Now I'm gonna use something free available and then work in this space with few people and say, well, I want this data, and what are the elements of that data that I want? What can I get out of that data? Right? Does it make sense to you? Yeah, Niraj? Yeah, so now you can see where, because these big data, these ERP projects can become catastrophic failures, and when you fail in style, as in it is 200-300 million, right? So in order to mitigate that, you need to be very careful. Now, opportunities for Walt Disney and big data are enormous. Already they see great results from My Magic Plus system, so they can expect them to expand the project to other parks around the world. So again, another bit of information here, that is, you start small, then you actually deploy it within this one region, one park, and then if that is successful, you move to the other parks, right? Because you have already learned your mistakes from this one place, and you know what can happen in the other areas. Okay. Any questions so far? Do you think it was useful, this big data discussion? Mm-hmm. Correct. Good point. How would you mitigate it? Anyone? How can you mitigate it? I'm going to be using subset. Yeah, go on. Yes. Right. So what you can do is, you're not using all of your data, you'll use subset of your data, because with that you can manage. And on top of it, you can mask the data, right? You scramble the data, you can mask the data. And that's what is done. Even, so it's a very good point, not only for these open source tools, right? Now, one of the companies that I worked for, we had information that was very, very sensitive commercially, right? And this was about the future of the company. And the company was a very well-known company. And what they had to do was, even the people, now in a project you get people not only from that particular department, but of course people from other departments, the vendors as well, right? So what they had to do was, they had to mask all the data prior to it going into the systems, and then you need data to test the system, etc. So they had to mask all the data. So it's not only important when you're doing something like this using the open source tools, but even if you're doing it within in-house, it's an important aspect. Thanks for raising that question, because that's again a risk. Any other questions? Any other things? Someone asked me yesterday in the evening class. They asked me, how does this big data, who does it? And is there somebody out there in the world who sits there and does this? And have we got like thousands of applications, like an ERP system that does it? So the answer to that is, you get generally the specialist IT companies are the ones who work with you on these tools. But the tools are as good as your imagination. Right? That's what it is, basically. Because these IT guys are not going to tell you how to run your business. Yeah? And they will just do things to enable that. That's it. Now, the other thing is, big data is something very new, right? It's not something that's been there for a long time. So the tools are constantly changing. So there are certain tools in the market, not a huge amount of tools, but they are constantly changing as well as improving. So when you're investing in something, you need to be careful that this is not something like kind of proprietary, and you'll not be able to move. Right? Even when it comes to an ERP system, you need to see, well, you get an ROI, return on investment, within 4 or 5 years, right? Because you need to change you need a big overhaul in the next 5 years, because the environment changes, lots of things changes, your business model changes. So as a result, maybe you may go to a different product altogether. And as well as, because your tools are something these tools are new in the market, right? There might be somebody who will come up with a brand new thing which will kind of surpass all the other tools that are there. So you need to be quite careful when you're investing. Now, this 800 million invested by Disney, I'm sure they would have, they would gain the return, but then in another 5 years' time, they would have to really rethink and look at their IT strategy with regards to big data and change things again. Right? So that is something that you have to bear in mind, not spend billions and billions, because this is not something that's going to last for a lifetime. It certainly will not last for 10 years. Okay? Any other questions? Another thing in Disney is, I thought this was very interesting, the Disney acquisitions. And this is something brand new that's there in May. Okay. This was there in the news as well, in CNN, BBC. Did you guys hear about it? So what do you think is happening with Disney in the recent years? And why am I picking Disney is because they are the biggest in the industry. And there is a strategy here that they're following, right? If you can see that, and then you have to decide, where does our dream park sit, right? Do we want to be a big, massive number one player, or a second tier, third tier player? Because depending on that, there are lots of things that may change. Okay, so when you're answering the questions as well, you need to figure that out and say, this is how a number one player like Disney, this is how they work, right? And we saw yesterday there's only about 50 companies that controls 85% of the market, right? So anything here that you want to discuss? And yep. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, yeah. Anybody else? So this is an interesting one here where they say Disney's advantage lie in its storytelling ability and the strength and numbers of its brands. Time Warner Brothers has DC Comics, Comcast Universal Picture has strong animation arm, but Disney has unparalleled scale. This is largely because of an acquisition spree by CEO, which included all these other companies that built the studio into 5 potent film brands while competitors weren't investing in the risky business. What does that mean to us and for Disney? What do you think about this? Right. So if I look at the ends of matrix, what have they done? And if you can elaborate a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Right. Um, right. Uh-huh. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah? Go on, Niraj. Yeah, Niraj. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about, if we apply this to our dream park, where do we stand? Mm-hmm. Right. So there you go, because this is what's happening in the world currently as we speak, right? This is what Disney is doing, and Disney is very profitable, and they can see the market growth as well. In one of the articles, it stated, how the market growth is and how they can see it. We'll look into Merlin as well and see how they're doing, right? And see, here you go, these are the films, because what are they doing? Actually linking all these into their theme parks as well, right? So they have that yesterday you guys mentioned that ecosystem, that they got the movies and the hotels and everything in the theme parks, so they can actually bring about a lot of synergies. They're not operating, so to speak, in silos, but actually bringing the synergies. So now in our case, we have only 3 different types of theme parks, and we also state we want to have them all together. And another thing, what we don't have is a very strong brand. The characters are not there. Of course, we don't have movies linked to it, right? And what if somebody comes in with a proposal to collaborate, in the case of a movie project? What do you think we should be doing? And that's something possible. That's something, not it is something quite possible, because Disney has gone into that. What do you think how do you think you will advise the board? Right, the Surface model plus you are, because Disney has stated that it is a very risky business. So it's not everybody who goes into the movies, right? But Disney has taken that step. However, the founder had a lot of experience before. So it's not as if they did not have experience. So basically, if you're partnering with somebody, you need to ascertain the other party has the experience to actually experience in making the movies and that side of it, the technicality, right? Because you only have the experience of operating the theme parks, not the other side of it. So you have to ensure your partner, so to speak, would have a lot of experience in this regard, because you're going in partnership with this person. So you will collaborate, and your what would be your contribution to this? What do you think would be your contribution to this? So you can come up with Jolly Bear might be one of the characters. Maybe the new movie might bring in new characters as well that they want to incorporate in your theme park, right? So you are the one who will actually kind of provide that PR and the advertisement and awareness to the public. You're able to do that quite easily because you have lots of people, public, coming into your parks, right? Whereas this other party, they have to specialize in that movie business, and in order to and ensure that they carry out this their part of the act very well, right? Because if they're also new in the business, then this risky showbiz is going to be even more riskier, right? So that is one part you need to remember. Any other questions or comments? This one also is quite important. The 3 acquisitions, along with its 2 other labels, Walt Disney Animation, Walt Disney Pictures, that's left it with some of the best franchises in Hollywood. That's allowed the studio to map out a combined film state into 2020. This is the future for the next decade, with Disney and Warner Brothers having laid out superhero movies and other sequels, spin-offs, and reboots for years to come, says Jeff Bock, a box office analyst at Exhibitor Relations, right? So this is a really good article. I would like you to read this one. So let's go to something else. I think before we get into our analysis, the industry analysis, there's one other thing I would like to show you. That's Merlin. So somebody is saying about, let me read that chat. So why Dream Park, founded in 1962, has 5 countries. Merlin Entertainment, founded in 1998, has invested in 23 countries. Or even 1955 differs only by 7 years. Good point, right? Good point. So what have they been doing all these years? It seems like they're very conservative, or what is it? Because you can see the others in the industry are moving pretty fast. So if you're not moving very fast, what would be a consequence? Any idea? Yeah, yeah. So that is how it shows. Even in the articles, it's clearly stated that the big boys are the ones, the big, who will be running the show, and what they would be doing is looking at key players in the industry, the entertainment industry, and they will, and the niche players in the market who are smaller, and they will look at acquiring. And our debt is not all that great either. We're heavily in debt, so we're kind of in a good position for a takeover, I would say, unless they radically change the way they're doing things. And has it got something to do with the people who are running the company? Another question. Okay, so if you look at Merlin, what is Merlin? And then you look at all the brands it's got, right? And also, if you look at unique portfolio of family entertainment brands and iconic assets, okay, again they have, this is a very interesting one, I thought: Midway Attractions, Legoland Parks, Resort Theme Parks. What does this mean? Let me open this so that you can read it better. Sorry. Midway Attractions. What does that mean? And this also, Legoland Parks. Let me go into the next one, because it says the investment in each one of these categories, right? Because the investment in each of the categories are different. Because in a theme park, it's of course a huge amount of money, but I don't know what's going on here. But Midway Attractions is less than $1 million, right? So again, you can see where and what type of investment that you should be doing, and it depends on the environment as well. Okay, any comments here? And you can see the Midway Attractions brands positioned across all key target demographics, right? So that targeting. Any other comments? Do you think this is something that we could be doing? It's taking a while to refresh, so I'm just going to go back to where it was. So here it shows the growth in leisure spending till 2025, how we are growing, the market segmentation as well, and then the Merlin's competitive advantage, right? Only company to successfully operate Midway products across multiple brands and sites. Yeah, which is an interesting one. So with Disney, you saw how they were acquiring other companies, as well as aggressively going into that movie industry, and actually benefiting out of the different characters that's there. But Merlin has got a different strategy, where they're also looking at this midway kind of entertainment. Is this something that we should be looking at, or what do you think? Any ideas? Because this is another strategy that we can come up with. Any ideas? So what we're saying is the expansion plans, this company going into and opening parks in other parts of the world, that's a massive risk as well as a lot of money, right? They're already committed to opening this new park. Yeah, but do you think, should we go into this midway strategy that Merlin is doing, or no? Is this something you think we should do? What are your views? So one other thing here which is quite important for you to see is synergies, continued progress on developing enhanced digital guest journey. Again, we are looking at the IT enablement here, where there is a lot of synergy across their different entities, different parks, different entertainment that they offer. So they bring this whole thing together, right? They have given the financials as well. So I'll go to our case study now. I think we've gone through this sufficiently. So let me go through the one second. So from what we saw just now, any thoughts? Now we looked at Disney as well as Merlin. Any thoughts on how we should proceed with our company? I've just stopped sharing because I want to go to my presentation and then bring it up, because it's much better rather than sharing it through the Dropbox. So bear with me. But till we open that, can we have a discussion on looking at what Disney is planning on doing, where they're heading towards, and then we looked at the second biggest, that is Merlin, right? What do you think? Where do you think we fit in? And somebody really posed a question as well. I mean, we started in 1962, a few years after Disney, but still we got only a few parks, right? Where do you think we are heading towards? And what should we be doing? Yeah. Any ideas? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Anyone else? Right, so let me share my screen with you before. So one of the other things that Disney is very good at is the adverts that they put out, and it links it to an event and makes it very personal to you. Go through this YouTube link, and it's a couple of minutes. It's really interesting to see how they touch each one of them. And in this case, they're reaching out to the young people in their 20s, right? And what fun that they can have in Disney. And what makes up a theme park, right? The design, of course, the engineering, right? And the production, assembling of it, because most of the time so the design, you start with the design and say, right, this is my dream, this is what I think this should look like, and this is the output that we're expecting. And the engineers go away and then they bring your dream to reality, right? And also then comes the production. The production happens, and then the assembling most of the time happens in the park itself, right? Because generally, these things are so big, so you may need to ship it to that particular location in different parts and assemble it there, right? So you can see key different vendors involved in getting this together, right? Wacom, a Dutch company, is the world's biggest when it comes to engineering. So there are few companies when it comes to these rides, manufacturing these rides and etc. They specialize in it, and the reason for that is because of health and safety. So the safety is paramount, so these guys specialize in this. And even when it comes to assembling these, there are specialist people who will do that, right? So marketing and the operator of the theme park is also very important, plays an important part in promoting this. Of course, the training and the show, because you can have the best of stuff in the theme park, best of rides, without your people and that show, it's not possible to get it going, right? So these guys, Chance Rides, what they are the ones who they manufacture. They produce it as well, but also they provide a lot of support, and they will assemble the rides as well. So this is a little bit from their websites to showcase what sort of things that they do, right? The other revenue generators, we did speak about this the other day, the merchandise supply and merchandise and catering. There are inherent risks associated with this, and how do we manage it is an important thing. So if there is something like food poisoning or anything related to food, or any bad news, right, what we have to do generally is come out very soon and publicly apologize immediately, because if you leave it for rumors and you delay it, your reputation is going to go down. So this is something that they need to avoid. So all the time, it's like a disaster recovery plan. The communication plan needs to be there as well, and they need to have a very clear strategy to say, whatever the bad news is, how are we going to handle it when it comes to press, social media, right, live broadcasts or town hall meetings? How are we going to communicate? Who is going to be in charge? Who is going to vet the information? Because we need to have standard information going across. So this has to be quite clear, because we don't know what may happen, but only thing that we know is there may be some bad thing happening, right? Sometime, if it's not happened before, sometime in the future it may happen. How are we going to deal with it is the question, because when it happens, it's a bit too late for you to start thinking about, well, these are the activities that should be doing, or everyone will be running around and no clear direction. When it comes to staff skills, it's really important in all the theme parks. So this is an industry analysis where it's a generic thing. We'll have ride attendees, engineers, medical staff, security, right? These four people, four roles. So we need to have regular training. What are the business continuity plans, staff and new technology plus rides. We need to focus on change management, right? Even with regards to new rides, it's change management. That means training. So if they're not trained properly to handle certain things, when an event happens, you don't know how they will react. Okay, so here we go. We've got one question here. So let me see. Right, yeah. If you can do this question, please, in 10 minutes, right? Just write out an answer plan. 1 second, I'm just gonna put myself on mute. Have you guys finished? Yep. Yep, that's fine. Eugene, you want to share it with us or talk through it? Yeah, great, if you can share. Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Yep. Okay, good. Anyone else that wants to share the screen with me? Yeah, sure. No, you need to view. I can see it, but it's very small. View. Yeah. You, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Okay. You covered quite a bit, and also like the fact that you included the technical models as well, and it's easier to structure it, isn't it, when you use certain models because it will help your thought process more than anything else. Yeah. Anyone else? Niraj? Anything that you've got where it's more than what Matthew or Eugene has stated? Yeah. Yes. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Right. Roland, anything from you? Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Um, so yeah. Then Rizwan, anything extra that you want to add to this discussion? Okay, nothing. Walid, how about you? Uh huh. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, no, just, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think most of you have stated, you know, there's the HR director is just stating, well, just singling out one group of people and saying we should give them this. But what is the root cause, right? How is it contributing? And as well as, I mean, the repercussions are great. So I think Matthew has detailed, the processes that you'll have to go through in order to look at, as well as if you're trying to implement it, what needs to be done. from a stakeholder perspective, all the employees will be, you have to manage their expectation as well. If you're singling out a certain group of people, there has to be a very good reason. I mean, this means I could say, well, if I perform badly, I'm able to get, this group is able to get a bonus, right? Is that the kind of message that that's going to go through? So we got to be quite careful in setting precedents and stating, yes, we need to give them a bonus or not, a performance related pay. How is it, do we have to actually look at our whole staff, their bonuses, how we have structured it? Do we need to review it, right? Is it fair just reviewing these people alone? Because if due to this, giving them a performance bonus, if the other staff get demoralized, we're going to have a really bad situation in our hands, and that's a difficult thing to manage, right? Thank you. So let's proceed to our case study. Then in this one, we're talking about the supplier power. So definitely the supplier has a lot of power, especially the rides, the guys who create the rides, the ones who engineer it and produce, manufacture it. And most of our, when you do the analysis, you will see most of our suppliers are based in Europe. So therefore, there is a big forex issue there as well. You're exposed to it. And in this case, you have to work with your supplier very closely and have a close relationship, because you're not the only one the supplier is going to be working with, right? However, if you depending on the relationship you have, you will get more, get a better service, right? So it's important for you to have that relationship with the supplier. And it's not just a transactional thing that you go on. So you include the supplier, discuss with the supplier your value chain, right? What is important to you, your strategy, your roadmap, and ensure that supplier links to your strategy and also your value chain. Okay, because then the supplier is certainly a part of your team and not an outsider. As soon as the supplier becomes an outsider, it's a different game, because it's a transactional thing, right? Technology. This is an interesting thing where I'm just going to show you this part because I don't think you can see it. Now, if something goes wrong, well, the public is very fast in talking about it and talking about it to the world. Now, I just researched on theme parks, right? And it gives this TripAdvisor gives information, and the theme parks cannot do anything about it except respond to some of the comments if they are quite negative. So it is important that you deal with your positive, negative comments as well. So anyone who's got experience with TripAdvisor and use TripAdvisor for their travels and holidays and things like that, or TripAdvisor or anything similar to that. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Now you said you send out a link, so they have to log into a website, is it? Yes. Right. Yes. Yes. Right. And these people, they respond to the hotel. How do they respond? No, no, sorry, Matthew. I think I asked the question incorrectly, phrased it incorrectly. What is the method so they can write back, or do you capture it in a particular web page, or is it via the TV? There is a mechanism. I'm just trying to figure out how they provide. Right. Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So few things that you mentioned are quite important. So one thing is being proactive, and before when the guest is there, you send him or her this link, right, where they can respond. The second one is where you mentioned you're using actually the existing platform, TripAdvisor, right? Again, I don't have to invest in IT, right, which is fantastic. Third one, what you mentioned was you ask 3 questions, right? Again, you don't need, I mean, imagine yourself when you've got like 15, 20 questions. It's quite annoying. You don't give feedback, right? Because can't be bothered. But if it's only 3 questions, 4 questions, yeah, that's not a big deal. I can do it in 1 minute. Yeah. So quite pertinent questions that you're asking. We can use something similar with our dream park as well, because this is again going to make things, we are going to engage the customer and also find out what is good, what's bad, what's happening with this person right now. Is the person happy? Some incident has happened, the person is unhappy. We can address that situation right away. So that's important. Now, I had a bad experience once when I went to, I think it was Sofitel in Switzerland. But it was a situation where I had to complain immediately to the duty manager. But he was like, they had not cleaned the toilet, right? And that's not funny. This is a 5-star hotel. So he took it up as, it's something normal, it's not a big deal. And nobody even apologized, like what you mentioned. Nobody actually, said to us, well, we'll offer you this, for your inconvenience. I put it in the TripAdvisor, of course, and no response. So, but that goes to show, even in 5-star hotel, and it's pointless having all these things if you don't respond to the public. So in your case, Matthew, what you mentioned was the response is also there. You take it promptly. So it's pointless. The most annoying thing is you have all these proactive measures, but nobody's taking the corrective action if somebody states, I'm having an issue, right? Any other comments on this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Correct. Yes, yes. Yeah, that's right. It's being quite diplomatic, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's true. Right. This is our last question for today, and we will end with this one. If you can draft a answer plan for this in the next 10 minutes, that'll be great. So I'm just going to mute myself. Okay, so let's start by sharing the screen. Who's completed it? Okay, so anyone else who wants to go first? So let's start from Ronald. That's fine. Yep. Yeah, right. That's good. Yeah, can see it. Yeah, brilliant. Yep, can see it. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, good. Right, thank you. Anyone else? Niraj? Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. It is 25 million. Okay. Yeah. Okay, go on. Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, then, Walid, anything else that you've got? Yes, Walid. Okay. So, did you write the answer? Did you do the structure? Right. Off the shelf? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So I think a couple of people have said that. Muhammad Robi. So I'll just. Yep. Hi. Have you got anything new to add or? Yeah, that's great. So let's, if you can share. It's still coming on. Yeah, can see it. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, good. Just want to find out from people, how do they find when I give you 10 minutes? Is it helpful to have this kind of question answer session? Right. Yes. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Operational cost. Yeah. Can you show that, please, Matthew? Since you're an expert now in sharing WebEx. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's good. And let me go back to the question. So the question here is evaluate the impact of having an outsourced IT system in Dream Park, advantages and disadvantages of both options. So if I look at it from a pure financial perspective, right, what is better, option one or two? However, the financials given are based on a net present value, a discounting factor, which we can debate, right? Why 14? Why something else? Why not something else? But however, having said that, both are comparative because it's got option one and option two. Both are evaluated on one discounting factor, right? So that's one thing. And the IT staff, you've mentioned, right, the cost of it. Now option 2, it seems like it is more. So you're saying, well, that's a bit strange. How can it be more than the others? We don't have sufficient information to say, any more details on this. But just looking at it, you can also ask the question, now these are forecasted figures. How good are our forecasted figures, right? Now option 1, who has done it? Is it in-house? Is it we who have done it, right? Because we might be really, we might state it's 400,000 per year, but actually it might be more, right? We don't know, because off the shelf package is 500 and this being 400, you may need to question that, because they are all forecasted figures. That's one of the key things that comes to mind in this case. So I'm first looking at the financials given and then trying to see, give my opinion on that, because you're choosing your options are based on your financial factors as well, right? So if one is not right, then the total thing may go wrong. But having said that, just on financial perspective, our NPV for option 1 is the negative is much greater, the negative side with option 1. So it seems like option 2 looks, from a financial perspective, that's the one to go for. But then again, everybody else has the same thing, right? So how are you going to get a differentiation in the market by using the same application? Is there a possibility to use this as the base and then build something else on top of it to create that differentiation? That's another question that you can ask, because if you look at between option 1 and 2, option 1, whichever way, looks extremely expensive. And another thing is, are we a technology company or are we operating in the parks, amusement parks? Because you see this in almost all industries, companies, and even in the past papers, they have same kind of questions asked. Sometimes purchasing an IT company, and at times going into technology investment, whether we should develop it or whether we should outsource and get someone else to develop it. So we've seen in real life, I've seen in many companies, from a technology perspective, people at times, the company have built certain applications, and that has been done maybe about 15 years ago. Because 15 years ago or 20 years ago, we did not have the technology companies of today where they specialize in, and they're very good at what they're doing. We didn't have these people, we didn't have these companies. So what the next best thing for those companies, those big companies, was to build an army of people, an IT specialist, to come in and develop the applications. But things are changing rapidly now. The landscape is changing. More and more people are moving away from having these IT resources playing a major role in their organization as developers or creating new systems. They are moving out into and giving it to others to run it. However, the question and the debate here is, how can we make it usable for us? Because quite a few people in the in the presentation in here mentioned, maybe it is not suitable for us. Maybe we get only the basic data, or maybe the basic information, and maybe we don't know. We have some other users with this data. How can we actually bring it to life, so that's the other aspect. Can we have two systems going on, one system's talking to the other one, right? You build your base with this off the shelf package and then moving into the next stage. Any views on that? Yes. Yeah, because that's exactly, yeah. So yeah, yeah. So in the sense, you don't because it would be, because what they're asking is software as a service, right? Purchase of an off-shelf package used by other competitors of Dream Park. So it might be, they already have this, and it would be something like a software as a service for sure, right? In this case, your operational cost comes down drastically, and also that's another factor that we need to state. Matthew, you stated there are the other things that we need to consider when we are looking into this, because some operational factors are not stated in both cases, like the license costs, etc., etc. So it's important, but be careful, don't go into cloud computing. You don't need to talk a lot about cloud computing. You just mention like one line if you want, because that's not the question. The question is, evaluate the impact of having an outsourced IT system in Dream Park. What are the advantages and disadvantages? So that's one, but also you need to mention what are the things, look at your financials given and say, critique it where necessary. Any questions? So the next bit is about Merlin. You can go through this, as well as I've given you some information in the Dropbox about Merlin. It's important to find out and understand about the competitors of Disneyland and the key operators in this amusement park industry, because you need to understand and kind of think about what strategies we as Dream Park can use. So we end today's class with this quote from Walt Disney. He says, "All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them." It's kind of fun to do the impossible. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. And that's exactly what we do in this class, because I get you to do the answers. So maybe some people don't like it much, but that's the only way that you're going to pass. Okay? So have a good afternoon, and if there is any questions, do put it in the chat box and we will take it from there on. I'm also gonna have in our Dropbox, I'll have an Excel sheet or Word which state, in there you can add what are the areas that you want me to go through. I know Matthew mentioned about the NPV things, and someone else spoke to me about what was it? Yeah, something in the chat box. It was there, so I'll pick up on those. And of course, there was about the Tara model and areas like that you guys need me to cover. Okay. Any other questions before we close? All right. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.